Mike Benz opens the discussion by painting Jeffrey Epstein as an enigmatic figure whose career trajectory intersected with various spheres of U.S. politics and intelligence over 4 decades. Epstein's early professional life began unconventionally as a math and physics teacher at the prestigious Dalton School in New York City during the mid-1970s. Despite lacking a college degree, Epstein's charm and charisma helped him secure this role largely through connections with Donald Barr, a former CIA operative and father of William Barr, who would later become the U.S. Attorney General. Epstein's transition from education to finance was facilitated by his tutoring of Ace Greenberg's son. Greenberg, the head of Bear Stearns, took a liking to Epstein's hustler mentality and brought him into the firm. Epstein quickly rose through the ranks, managing family and estate accounts, creatively using offshore banking to minimize tax liabilities. This early phase of Epstein's career laid the groundwork for his later involvement in complex financial and intelligence networks. The pod delves into the geopolitical context of the late 1970s and early 1980s, highlighting how the CIA's covert operations were severely curtailed during the Carter administration following the Church Committee hearings. These reforms crippled the agency's traditional covert action capabilities, leading to a significant reduction in its budget and personnel. The loss of Iran as a U.S. ally in 1979 was seen as a direct consequence of these limitations. In response, informal intelligence networks emerged, involving foreign intelligence agencies and private actors to carry out operations the CIA could no longer conduct openly. The Safari Club, a coalition led by French intelligence and including Egyptian, Moroccan, Portuguese, U.S., and Israeli agencies, exemplified this new model. Epstein's career unfolded against this backdrop, where private financiers and arms dealers became essential intermediaries in covert operations, operating outside formal government structures to maintain plausible deniability. Benz outlines Epstein's involvement in the Iran-Contra affair, a clandestine operation during the Reagan administration aimed at funding Nicaraguan Contras despite congressional prohibitions. Epstein's financial consultancy, Intercontinental Assets Group, IG, reportedly counted Adnan Khashoggi, a Saudi arms dealer and key middleman in the Iran-Contra arms sales, among its clients. Epstein's access to a high-quality fake Saudi passport and his international travel under a false identity suggest deep entanglement in covert operations. The Iran-Contra scandal involved complex arms smuggling and drug trafficking networks, with the CIA using proprietary airlines like Southern Air Transport to move weapons, drugs, and cash. Epstein's later acquisition of Little St. James Island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, a known hub for money laundering and logistics related to these operations, further ties him to this shadowy world. His financial dealings during this period appear to have supported the covert funding mechanisms underpinning U.S. foreign policy objectives. After the Iran-Contra period, Epstein's career shifted towards managing the finances of powerful individuals and corporations. His association with Les Wexner, the billionaire founder of the limited retail empire, marked a significant turning point. Epstein was granted durable power of attorney over Wexner's vast business interests, an unusual level of trust and authority that raised questions about the nature of their relationship. Benz speculates that Epstein's ability to secure such positions was not solely due to financial acumen, but likely involved leveraging his intelligence connections and possibly blackmail or other coercive tactics. Epstein's network expanded to include British arms dealers, former U.S. Attorney General John Mitchell, and influential figures in the British and Israeli intelligence communities, notably through his association with the Maxwell family, whose patriarch Robert Maxwell was reputedly linked to Mossad. The podcast explores Epstein's connection to the Maxwell family, particularly Robert Maxwell, a British media mogul with deep ties to Israeli intelligence. Maxwell's state funeral in Israel and his role in early Zionist activities underscore his significance in the intelligence and political spheres. Epstein's relationship with Maxwell's daughter, Ghislaine Maxwell, further cemented his access to elite networks. Epstein's frequent meetings with Ehud Barak, former Israeli prime minister and head of military intelligence, highlight his embeddedness within Israeli statecraft. Barack reportedly visited Epstein's residence over 40 times, indicating a close relationship. These ties suggest Epstein operated at the nexus of U.S., Israeli, and British intelligence interests, blending financial operations with covert statecraft. A pivotal moment in Epstein's story was his 2006 indictment on charges related to prostitution and sex trafficking of minors in Florida. Despite overwhelming evidence and numerous victims, Epstein received a highly controversial plea deal that drastically reduced his sentence. The deal allowed him to serve only 13 months with work release privileges and shielded him from federal prosecution. Benz details how the lead federal prosecutor and FBI agents had prepared a comprehensive indictment only to be overridden by Alex Acosta, the then U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. Acosta's decision to cut the plea deal, excluding victims from the process and bypassing federal charges, remains shrouded in mystery. This leniency sparked widespread suspicion that Epstein's connections to intelligence agencies influenced the outcome. The podcast scrutinizes Alex Acosta's role in the Epstein case, particularly his refusal to arrest Epstein in 2007 despite the FBI's readiness. Acosta later claimed he was instructed to back off because Epstein was above his pay grade, implying intelligence involvement. When pressed publicly, Acosta neither confirmed nor denied these allegations, citing Justice Department ethics rules. An internal Justice Department investigation, the Office of Professional Responsibility (OPR) report, found procedural irregularities in Acosta's handling of the case, but did not pursue disciplinary action. The report's limited disclosure, especially regarding whether Epstein was an intelligence asset, fuels ongoing speculation. Benz argues that the full transcript of Acosta's interviews with OPR should be released to clarify these lingering questions. Epstein's relationships with prominent political figures, including Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, are examined in detail. Clinton reportedly flew on Epstein's private jet multiple times and participated in philanthropic trips organized by Epstein. Trump, who once socialized with Epstein, later distanced himself following the 2006 indictment. The podcast highlights the complex interplay between Epstein's financial dealings and political influence, noting that Epstein's network spanned both Republican and Democratic circles. This bipartisan entanglement complicates efforts to fully expose Epstein's activities, as many powerful individuals have vested interests in suppressing damaging information. Southern Air Transport, a CIA proprietary airline involved in Iran-Contra, is a recurring theme in Epstein's story. After the airline's Miami operations ceased, it relocated to Columbus, Ohio, coincidentally Epstein's and Wexner's base of operations. This move suggests a continuation of covert logistics support for intelligence-related activities. The podcast discusses how Southern Air Transport's presence in Columbus facilitated the transport of goods for the Limited's retail empire, including gun stores acquired by the company. This intersection of intelligence logistics and commercial enterprise exemplifies the blurred lines between statecraft and private business in Epstein's orbit. Epstein's mastery of offshore finance and money laundering is a central subject. His use of shell companies, fake passports, and complex debt instruments enabled him to move vast sums discreetly. Clients ranged from European royalty to arms dealers, embedding Epstein deeply in global financial networks that often intersected with intelligence operations. Benz explains how these financial mechanisms served dual purposes: sheltering wealth and facilitating covert funding for geopolitical objectives. Epstein's involvement with entities like Bear Stearns, Apollo Management, and the Development Finance Corporation illustrates the scale and sophistication of his financial empire. The podcast concludes by addressing the political ramifications of the Epstein scandal, particularly for Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. Epstein's connections to both sides of the political aisle create a toxic dilemma for Trump, who initially used Epstein's ties to Clinton as a political weapon, but later faced scrutiny over his own associations. Benz emphasizes that the Epstein issue has fractured the MAGA base, as many supporters find the allegations abhorrent, yet remain loyal to Trump. The refusal of Trump's administration to fully disclose Epstein-related information fuels conspiracy theories and undermines trust. Benz advocates for transparency, arguing that an official, comprehensive account is necessary to quell speculation and restore confidence. Throughout the discussion, Benz stresses the urgent need for transparency regarding Epstein's intelligence ties and the Justice Department's handling of his cases. He points to the Office of Professional Responsibilities investigation and the withheld transcripts as key documents that could shed light on the truth. Benz argues that the current lack of disclosure allows the internet and conspiracy theorists to fill the void with increasingly fantastical narratives. He calls on Attorney General Pam Bondi and other officials to release these records, asserting that doing so would stabilize political discourse and provide the public with a clearer understanding of Epstein's role in the intersection of finance, intelligence, and politics.